I'm standing next to the biggest thing Acura makes, the MDX 3-row crossover. And it's all new. It's only early 2021, but this is a 2022 model. And it's very important for Acura and its parent company, Honda, because it's going to underpin several models from that company. Let's take it for a drive today on Family Wheels. Acura is not resting on the success of the previous generation MDX. Here in early 2021, it's offering a mostly new MDX 2022 model. New chassis, new styling, new suspension, slightly larger, and it's a package that keeps the MDX at the head of its class. The styling changes are substantial but tasteful, sharpening edges here and there, adding more shape to the sides and rear, but foremost signaling a big change for Acura away from its rearward slanting nose. Now it's essentially vertical with a larger grille, its upper edge higher in the hood, and the upper sides at sharper angles below the slim headlights. It is tastefully executed, unlike the overdone front ends of competitors from Lexus and Infiniti. The V6 engine with 290 horsepower has plenty for your needs and can be quite sporty when you want it to be. Handling is sprightly for such a large vehicle, and that's thanks to the redesigned platform and suspension on the MDX. Here we are in sport mode. We're going to go around a turnoff here and just throw it in the curve and see what happens. And for a big vehicle, it's quite agile. Nice turn in, neutral throughout, apply the power as we leave the corner. No drama at all. Familiar to anyone who's bought a Honda in recent years, there's automatic emergency braking, forward collision warning, pedestrian detection, lane keeping. But also there's a 12.3-inch display. It's controlled somewhat confusingly by a touchpad down here. It takes considerable getting used to, but does work. Ride is excellent. There's a new chassis underneath this thing and double wishbone front suspension, adaptive dampers, all the suspension magic, if you will, that goes into a nice ride, and still provides decent handling at the same time. Good isolation here. I'd say this punches at a level considerably higher in price than the MDX. The MDX's brake-by-wire system is set up for a fairly soft pedal feel, which to some drivers seems not sporty at all. But the softness doesn't mean there's less braking. It's just a signal to the electrically driven booster. More pressure, more braking. I quickly got used to it. The 3.5-liter V6 engine, a carryover from the previous model, is not a turbo, which we need reminding of in these times of turbos everywhere. The big rig moves away smoothly and smartly with help from a 10-speed transmission, but to get strong acceleration, you have to wind the engine up to substantially higher revs. By the way, that sounds great in the MDX, especially in sport mode. Turbo engines, on the other hand, can provide maximum thrust, torque that is, at less than 2,000 RPM. The 290 horsepower engine has 267 foot-pounds of torque. An upcoming 3-liter V6 with a turbo is promised to have 65 more horsepower and 87 more foot-pounds of torque. The MDX has 4 trim levels. The base version starts at $56,405. The Tech model is $4,000 more, the A-Spec $7,000 more, and the Platinum Elite $11,000 more, for a starting price of $67,405 before freight and PDI. In the US, the MDX with all-wheel drive starts at about $49,000 US. The top spec in the US is called Advance, and with an option list similar to the Elite, comes in at just under $62,000 US, according to Acura's Build and Price web pages. The interior of the MDX is packed with luxury and tech features that are well thought out. The driver's display is configurable, turning red when you engage sport mode. although it's a bit disconcerting in comfort mode that the dials go blank, leaving just blue circles and a digital speedometer in the middle. The gear selector looks a bit weird at first, but is actually very intuitive, especially the pull for reverse function. And speaking of reverse, the backup camera has good resolution and an excellent layout with rear view and 360 view side by side. To the right on the console is a pop-up with 2 USB connectors, one of them a Type-C for the latest devices. To the left is the brake hold switch, the perfect place for a button that gets pushed almost every time you start the car. There's a wireless charging pad, but the MDX also allows wireless CarPlay or Android Auto, a rapidly growing trend. I have 2 complaints. First, every time you climb into the driver's seat and close the door, there is an over-the-top greeting sound. It's loud. I'd hit the start button as soon as possible to cut it short. And then there's the touchpad infotainment controller. Acura says it's an improved new generation with a more powerful processor and is intuitive and driver-focused. Many people defend the trackpad. I use a trackpad on my laptop every day, no problem, but I'm not trying to drive 4,400 pounds and 199 inches of motor vehicle at the same time. The Acura trackpad is clever in that if you want something in the upper right corner of the screen, you touch the same area on the trackpad. But I found it would skip past what I wanted and on to the next item. Regardless, the trackpad adds a second layer of thinking when compared to a touchscreen or rotary controller, and that means tenths of a second more distraction. Just ask a traffic accident investigator what can go wrong in a few tenths of a second. Fortunately, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Alexa can make many tasks voice-activated or at least reduce the uncertainty of using the touchpad. Power outlets abound, 1 for the front passenger, 2 for the second row, right next to a couple of USB jacks, and the second row also gets the luxury touch of separate climate controls and heated seats. There's lots of legroom in the second row, although not much lumbar support. The Acura's party trick is the center seat, which can be removed to create a pass-through to the third row, much easier than flipping the second row forward and clambering into the way back. And although there's an extra inch of legroom back there compared to the previous model, it's a tight squeeze that's best suited to kids who don't need a car seat or larger people for short distances. Nonetheless, our top-spec version has a pair of USB ports back there, and the Elite comes with an intercom to spare you from having to shout about turning the car around. We've got 3 bags of groceries, a backpack, and a stroller. Okay, so there's no way the stroller is going to fit in the back with all 3 rows of seats up. This is typical of this type of vehicle. Half of the third row should now be folded down. And in it goes, decent amount of room, no great problem. You still have half the third row up. And this is critical to the 3-child family. You've still got that complete seat in the third row for 1 child. The MDX was already out front, earning bragging rights as the top-selling 3-row SUV, and the new improved platform and styling of the 2022 positions it to extend that lead. It handles very well, especially for a family hauler, and could legitimately be cross-shopped against pricier vehicles such as the 2-row BMW X5. It's superior to the Lexus RX 350L, Infiniti QX60, and Mazda CX-9, and is a you-pick-em contender against those 2 Korean darlings, the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade. U.S. choices are high-spec versions of the handsome Ford Explorer, Chevrolet Traverse GMC Acadia, and Dodge Durango Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Unless you can't live with a touchpad infotainment controller, the MDX should be on your shortlist. Well, that's our look at the 2022 Acura MDX 3-row SUV. Bigger than the old MDX, completely restyled, new platform. It's now the design leader among its class, in my view. Thanks for watching and subscribing. I'll see you next time on Family Wheels.